Gotcha.
Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. We have a very special guest, the first real estate agent in the world. Yes, she was number one.
I'm not that old, Steve.
No, not that old at all. We have Elaine Stucy from, where the hell are you from these days?
Castle Rock, Colorado.
Castle Rock, Colorado. Elaine, why don't you give the group a brief intro to who you are and why you're on this call this morning?
Besides the fact that you asked me to be on the call, and I would do anything you asked me to, Steve. Yes.
You are my favorite. That's why. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I wish people could raise hands and say how many of you have heard me before, because I repeat the same story. But I started coaching with Steve in 2001, and Steve got me to go into real estate because he was very unimpressed with the business I was in and that I was calling him for coaching. That's a nice way of putting that. And so I started in the business. I started my own company. I had a broker's license, but I'd gotten it to do commercial and then had not pursued that. And so I started in the business, no brokerage. Why in the world I would do that, I don't know. But Steve was it for me. I had no office, no broker, no residential experience, and Steve Scholl in California when I was in Colorado. So that's how I started in business. And here's what I'm going to say about that. First of all, I did everything he told me at that point, and that served me very well. Second, I was energetic, coachable, and didn't have a whole lot of fear because I didn't know what to expect. And then I didn't have bad habits because I didn't have the expectation of the people around me, or the limitations might be a better thing to say. So that's how I got started in real estate. The average price now in my marketplace is around 600,000. And my average price is about $1.6 million right now. And I had my own brokerage for 15 years and sold my company to Sothebys 3.5 years ago. So that's where I am. And I love what I do. I still love it. So this is year 21 for me. And it's still pretty exciting business to be in, although the market changes all the time.
You are really good at what you do. You really have nailed this career. What do you attribute to your success?
Perseverance. If I were just going to say what has helped me a lot, it's the ability to learn from my mistakes and not quit, to start over, it's funny. I am not attached. I don't get attached to things. I don't get attached to the outcomes. And I try to learn when I don't get an outcome that I don't like. I have a really good ability to lay my interests aside and really try to figure out what the client wants and what's in their best interests and focus on that. And, I'm going to say this because Steve at least gave me a heads up that he'd ask this question before I say what I'm good at in business. I do things in a counterintuitive way. I try very hard not to be ego driven in my business. And I know you guys are all in Hollywood, and so you're used to being, maybe you all aren't, but front and center. And it's really important to be recognized and to promote yourself. And I've kind of made a career out of promoting my properties and not promoting myself. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have a big ego and I'm not arrogant at times or whatever else that I might be, but just to be able to be disciplined enough to take that back and be thinking about the person that's in front of me. And then from a real estate perspective, I focus on listings, and I was taught that early. My mentality goes there. I'm very, very best when I'm with people, and I know when I'm doing the wrong thing, when my energies just starts getting drained, I'm just know I'm out of my lane. And I'm pretty good about delegating very good processes, not because I'm organized, but because I hire people who are organized. And so I can delegate and let go and focus on what I'm good at, which is really being around people, being around clients, and finding ways to list and market properties.
You are fundamentally sound as a real estate agent. You built a solid foundation. You've never been frenetic. You've never been, on
That's
an
it.
emotional roller coaster, up and down, all over the place. Um, what what would you consider part of your foundation? What are the things that you worked on early on that are still at, key or core to what you do even today? Like your average price has gone up dramatically. It used to be 400,000. Now you're saying it's 1,600,000. That's a big jump. But
Mm-hmm.
what are the things though that created that foundation and still drive your business today?
Okay. And I know we'll get to this in a little bit, but I just have to say it as a foundation that's working on my mindset all the time. So we'll get more into that, but that is a big foundation. So Steve taught me how to measure. And I want everybody to know this. If you're really a structured, disciplined person, that is awesome. You're miles ahead. I structure, discipline, consistency, not necessarily my natural strengths,
Why do you say that? I think you
because
have
this is a learned skill. This
okay.
this is a skill that I learned, and I learned it. I really learned it in this business, and that was you've got to make a certain number of contacts. And still to this day, I don't make the kind of contacts I used to make, and Steve would probably chide me, but I never have less than 50 live conversations with people during the week. And I chart it. And do I fall down and start over? Absolutely. But there's never been a year or a month that's ever gone by when I haven't started over charting what I do, because it's easy to lie to yourself in this business. It's easy to be busy. So fundamental, talking to people and, working at that and measuring what I do so that I don't kid myself. So that's probably the greatest fundamental. The other great fundamental is just having the intention to list properties. And a little of that's driven by my personality. I'm not very patient. So I just can't necessarily work with buyers who just aren't going to buy and aren't realistic and aren't going to do what it takes to win. Just not my cup of tea. So listings are much better for me. So those are probably two things that have helped me:
Well,
talking to
four,
people, measuring that.
mindset, measurement, talking to people, intention to list.
Yeah.
And you know, so here you are on day one, you open your own company. Um, are you a rebel? How do you look at yourself from a macro perspective? Conformist, nonconformist, rebel, revolutionary, practical? How do you see yourself?
um, I am independent, and sometimes when I get a strong sense of what the right thing for me to be doing, I am counterintuitive in some ways. Okay, good. This is a good thing. I need to distinguish myself in a non-diva way. So I want to be different, not by dyeing my hair blue, not by sending out a marketing piece on Halloween with me dressed up like a hot dog. Those aren't the way I want to differentiate myself. I want to differentiate myself in professionalism, um, knowledge, getting great at skills and scripts and dialogue, And when everybody wants their picture on everything, I don't want my picture on anything. In fact, I've made a career of not having my picture on anything until Sothebys forced me to do it. Think of all the time I saved by not trying to decide which picture I liked. It
Rob
was
Guillen
great.
just called in and said, yeah, there's my girl.
Yeah. So, and you know, whether that was driven from lots of things. It was driven from, I had a kind of a corporate background, and my bias was it didn't look professional to have my picture on things. The other thing was there were some really beautiful real estate brokers in my market. And I'm like, not called by blood. I am not going to be able to compete with that. So better to be the mystery woman. The other thing is, frankly, I can be rude sometimes. I drive fast. I might grab that last melon in the grocery store. I don't want people to know who I am if I don't know who they are. So that, you know, when you say, am I a rebel? No, but I wanted to find a way to distinguish myself. And I think much of it was providential or accidental. Starting my own brokerage was actually a practical financial decision that my husband and I made. And I look back and I think, wow, that was just, I don't know if that was a smart thing to do, but it did differentiate me in my marketplace when my marketplace was not as sophisticated. So my marketplace has gotten more sophisticated, and I feel that having a bigger brand has served me well at this point in my career.
Going back to, you came from a corporate background, professionalism was an important quality for you. How'd you reconcile knocking on doors?
You told me to do it.
Was it a
That is
struggle at
the
all?
only way I can reconcile doing that.
Say it again.
Because you told me to do it and I believed you. And that's the absolutely only way I can reconcile doing something so strange. And oddly enough, I never liked starting, but once I got going, I always liked it. I still have clients I met knocking on doors. They've made it very hard in my community to knock on doors now. And my niche, so to speak, or at least 50% of my market share is in larger properties, acreage properties, small ranches. So yeah, there's no door knocking on 200 acres. So
However, you knocked on doors for how many years?
probably really, really diligently every day for 4 years, and
Okay.
then lesser for the next couple after that. So six years of my career, very strong, and 4 years, hours and hours every day. When I was new, I had nothing to do. And so that was something you could do and feel great about. And, you know, that's one of the things that is, I understand that processes work. You know, that's, if you have a process and you do it, outcomes will happen, right? It's physics or nature or whatever the law is. So knocking on doors was great, and it was never a really bad experience. It was fun, and I was a lot thinner, so that was a real thing out of it.
All right. You had a brokerage at
Mm,
the, what was the, in terms of agent count, what was the most number of agents you had at your brokerage?
12. And when I sold to Sotheby's, I was the second most highest producing brokerage in our whole county. Keller Williams, Remax, Coldwell Banker. The only brokerage that outproduced me in volume was Sotheby's.
In watching other agents go at this, what do you think, you know, if you contrast what you did versus watching what other people do, what would you say to the group today? What's going to make them more successful?
Boy, make it simpler. Every day I get up and I look at what I have to do and I say, okay, what are the 3 things I have to do today? And then I'm like, what's the one thing? What's the one thing? And I take a look at my business and say, every year I used to make all these goals. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have a new listing presentation, a new this, a new marketing piece, a new this. And I'd have 10 things that were important. And guess how many of them I got done? Zero. Nothing ever changed. And so now I work on one project and I work that project till I get done. So here's what I want to say. Your question was, what did I probably focus on that other agents didn't? The word is focus. And I did my share of trying to do some internet leads and do a few things. All down to the best clients you get who don't fight about your commission and do what you say when they list are people who know you. Bottom of the day. And that doesn't mean just your natural sphere of influence, although that's part of it, but that sphere and expanding your sphere. That's why door knocking was successful for me, because I went around enough that people began to know me. They felt like they knew me, even though maybe I didn't know them. So the more, and maybe this is not where people are now, but the more you're face to face, the more you're on the phone, the more you're in a group, the more you're on a committee, the more you're at a door, the more, and I would even go Facebook, even though I'm a social media derelict, but nonetheless. But remember, in all of those settings, where do you want your business to be and what's the image you want to project? And be that in your settings. So if you hang out in bars and you're drunk all the time, you're probably not going to get the kind of clientele you're hoping for, even though you'll have people who know you. So does that make sense?
Yes. Chris Voss talks about the distinction between wanting to be liked and being likable.
Mm.
I would give you a 10 when it comes to being likable. Do you make that distinction? Have you been aware of that distinction? Do you consider yourself a people pleaser? Have you gone down that path before of wanting people to like you? Where do you stand on that?
I do want to please people to a degree. So I don't know if any of you've done disc profiles. It's probably important to say I'm that split between being that bottom line, non-compassionate, tell me what it is in 3 words or less, and being really outgoing and fun and friendly. But I am not driven by my need to be liked or be approved of. And so if I've finally come to the place, and I think I started out, I had very good coaching. I know there's plenty of business if I'm out in the marketplace to get it. So I don't want to prostitute myself to get somebody to like me, to get somebody to work with me, if they're not a person who's being drawn to me because of who I authentically am. And so I want people to come to me and like me because I'm a person they can trust, who'll have their best interests in heart, and who will do a great job for them, even when I'm not perfect. So, but to please people or give them a better deal or walk their dog or do things like that, I just don't need to do that and don't care. And I know there are people who don't like me. I just had a client fire me. Okay. Thank you. I'm so happy. Because they wanted to see 40 houses. I knew going in, and I said to them, excuse me, there was a house he wanted to see and I refused to show it to him. I just said, okay, no. A, your wife's not here. We agreed your wife would always be there. B, I didn't say it this way, but you can hardly walk across the yard. You can't buy a house that every time you go in the garage, there's 8 stairs up, and I'm not going to show it to you. And he just went crazy. And I'm like, if you were paying me $1,000 an hour, would you pay me $1,000 to go show you that house? Because that's what my time is worth to me. And he said, well, we looked at 40 houses. Our agent did that. I said, well, sorry for that agent, but my average is 4. And if I can't listen to you and know what you want and not waste your time, then I'm not worth you working with. And he got really mad and said, well, maybe we should get a different broker. And I said, if that's what you feel like you need to do, you should do it. And it doesn't matter to me. They're going to go lease a house and they're going to spend the next year looking at 100 houses. He doesn't like me. I don't care. Oh my gosh, this is being recorded, isn't it?
It is. I'm sending it.
I love him so much.
All right. 1 minute dissertation on commission.
Oh yeah, get it. Here's my best commission dial. Okay, and now I am going to talk about
What it
commission.
is, go.
I'm thinking about this because I just lost out on a deal for commission. So here's what I'm going to say. Number 1, try to really assess when you're going to be the fool, not the favorite. 2, when it's somebody who doesn't know you, figure out a way for them to get familiar with you. I mean, your marketing, your video, I don't care, whatever it is. If you're a cold stranger, it's easier for them to make you a commodity. And here's my very best commission dialogue, because most of the other stuff doesn't matter. Elaine, will you give me a break on the commission? That's it. The more you argue, what's the point? But it really is a setup. I'm to the place almost now in my pre-listing, and I just did this. Steve, you'd be so proud. I had a listing appointment. People called me. They were referred. They're in a community with 2 big time discount brokers, 2 of them. And one of them, so I called up, said, wow, great to talk to you. Thanks for calling. We chit chat for a while. And I said, so, Stan, there are 2 really serious discount brokers in your neighborhood. And I'm just going to tell you up front, I'm probably the most expensive person you're going to talk to. And if getting a discount on your commission is what's more important to you than having really serious representation and great marketing, you need to go list with those people, and let's not waste our time meeting. You're a busy man. And it was Greg. He's, oh no, I think we need to meet. And he listened, and it was really funny because I went by, did the walk through the house, and he's like, will you just give me a hint what your commission is? I'm a little nervous here. So I'm like, oh, it's 6%. And he's, oh, that's fine. So it was so funny, but I'm thinking maybe I need to find a way to tee that up all the time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were ahead of our time.
Oh, we were.
When we came up with that dialogue, I'm probably the most expensive agent you're going to talk to. That was what, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Oh my gosh, no, that was year 1 or 2. So that was 18 years ago, dear. See, I told you guys, it's the same old lines with me. It's the same old story. Nothing changes. Things do change.
Any parting thoughts for the group?
I guess what I want to say is the most important thing you do is your mindset. And I really feel that you work on yourself first. And probably my great superpower secret weapon is I get up really early in the morning, and before I do my email, I have a whole routine I go through mentally and plan my day so that I know what's important and I'm not dropped into the whirlwind within an hour of being out of bed. And that's probably, if I were going to say that's my superpower, that's got to be it.
Well, Elaine, thank you for being on. For all of you, this is a human being that knows what she's doing in life, not just business. And she's a true inspiration. I love you. Thank you for being on this morning, and we'll have Elaine back at some point here. Thanks, Elaine.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Elaine.
All right.
Thank you, Elaine.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Elaine. You're awesome.
Have a great day.
You were wonderful.